Phil, have you ever seen the movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger starred in, The Terminator?
Of course, I've seen The Terminator.
One of the greatest.
Terminator 2, more importantly, I think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the movie was okay because I don't know if that was really the true Terminator. Arnie he did well, but we've got the real life, real world Terminator in Jim Stevens on the podcast today.
Deal.
We've been waiting months for this. I'm so excited to have you on the pod, Jim. Another one of our Junto brethren, but he is an incredible entrepreneur, father, husband, family man, and doing a lot of things, moving cross country, which we're going to talk about just 4 or 5 short years ago. Jim, I remember meeting you at Fiesta Bowl, where was the Fiesta Bowl committee dinner or breakfast kickoff or something. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. This is before Junto. Do you remember that?
Sure, I sure do.
It was Who was speaking at that? I can't remember. I think it was a college coach. It was Urban Meyer, I think, spoke at that.
Urban Meyer.
It was incredible, right?
Love and ownership, my friend. Remember that?
I do.
Is that Fellowship of Christian Athletes for that breakfast or?
No. Fiesta Bowl kickoff luncheon. Okay. They bring in a stud to speak to obviously studs in the room, and yeah, that's right, Stephen. That's where we met, man. And love and ownership. How the heck how do you tee up against another incredible team in a national championship game where you have equal training, equal nutrition, equal playing ability? How do you take the field and win? You do it through love and ownership. I'll never forget it.
It was such a good talk.
That was pretty impactful.
It was. And I know we've been talking about months getting you on this podcast, and I'm excited to have you on. So when I met you, that was like you had just moved to Phoenix, just months before that. And this was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. You came from DC, and you're military brat. You traveled quite a bit from what I know. So kind of take us back a little bit. Give us a little Jim Stevens bio here for the listeners.
Well, you guys honor me. I love what you guys have done with this podcast. I think you're bringing a lot of value to people, and so I'm excited to be on today. Thanks, guys. But I'm a proud Army brat. I am my father's son. My dad went to West Point. His nickname was the Muscle at the academy. He was just a very serious guy. Walked into a room, meant business, head down, focused. But what I get to see out of my dad is, to me, he's a big teddy bear with his grandkids. He's got 15 grandkids now, and a devout family man. Never missed dinner with us growing up, and yet worked his tail off. Was a guy that was up 3:30 in the morning, going and working out, getting into the Pentagon early. Worked very, very closely with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. 26 years in the Army, 22 years with the Department of Defense. Has had a hand in a lot of really, really cool things that previous administrations have handed down, but a statistical genius, got his doctorate in statistics. So math is a passion of his, and his drive has always inspired me. So pretty neat that I get to kick this off by honoring my dad, my hero, somebody that's inspired me greatly and motivates me. If I can be half the man that he is, then I'm doing something right.
I love
Chip
that.
off the old block there.
Yeah, you're not as serious as him though, Jim. You got some smiles and some laughs in there, but you didn't get the Terminator nickname for nothing. So it's kind of cool when you see, you probably do you ever act and do things you're like, oh shit, that's exactly what my dad would have done. Do you see that a lot?
Yes, no question. So when I was dubbed the Terminator, I didn't quite know that was a good thing, right? I mean, I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Emotionless,
right?
Ultra focused, obviously terminating everything that's in his path.
Massive destruction, chaos.
Right. I tried to put on the Yule log to kind of temper expectations, but it looks like my hair is on fire. So I don't know. Maybe it plays into the destruction.
I love the ambiance. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that Jim threw the Yule log in the background. He's getting into the holiday season already. Just 3 dudes talking around the fire, man. Fireside chat.
First time that I've done it, gentlemen. This is on for the holiday season. Anybody that steps into my office is going to hear the crackle of a fire. What's funny is people will come in for a quick huddle meeting, and by the time they leave, they'll go. Like my body is hot. Like
it feels warmer in here.
Yeah, it feels warmer looking at a fire. Yeah. So if you start to sweat, I apologize in advance. But no, I mean, look, the Gento Group, hopefully we have an opportunity to talk about the impact that it's made on us. I know you guys talk about that a lot, but for me, it's been life-changing. And to have peers that I admire, I've openly said to many impressive rooms, that the most impressive room that I've ever been a part of is in the Gento Group. The genuine approach to support one another, but the progressive forward thinking that's in that room inspires me every single day. So for that room to have dubbed me the Terminator, I'll wear it with a badge of honor for the rest of my life.
Love it. It is definitely endearing, and it stuck right away. I want to take it back to talked a little bit about your childhood from your father's perspective, but before we talk into your impact in business and that journey, when you walk into a room being called the Terminator, son of the muscle, I don't think that your sport of choice would be the first one that comes to mind for most people. So talk about your athletic journey. No, it wasn't limited to your keystone sport, but know that had an impact during your educational journey and beyond. So talk us about the monstrous.
Yep. No, I appreciate that, Phil. Yeah. So for many that see me at 6'7", they would never think that soccer was my sport of choice. But a lot of it is rooted in the fact that I was overseas. I was in Stuttgart, Germany, 2nd to 4th grade when I was falling in love with sports. So I was born in Würzburg, Germany, moved to Monterey, California while my father was in Naval Postgraduate School getting his doctorate for 5 years, went to Leavenworth, Kansas, saw the buffalo roaming in Leavenworth for a year, and then moved 2nd to 4th grade over to Stuttgart. And truth be told, I can grab rebounds and I can run and I can block shots, but I am not impressive on the basketball court. And I enjoyed playing baseball, but for me, I did not like being in left field and having action a few times a game. So when it came to soccer, I just naturally progressed to it, and I was pretty good. And so when I came back stateside, I joined a rec program, and this is where it gets funny. I joined a rec program. So anybody that understands athletics in the United States understands that rec means recreational, and that means you're playing against kids that are like playing for the first time in their lives. So I would score like 10, 15 goals a game. So I'm thinking that I'm the next Pele, and
Right.
And I get picked up by the Southwest Rangers at 10 years old. Marcello Aberzetti, you want to talk about opportunity? This has defined me in a big way. Marcello scouted me and said, "Hey, I want you to try out for the team." And I went and tried out and realized very quickly what a competitive soccer team is all about. So they were incredible. But the reason the sport of soccer has made such a profound impact on my life is that I got cut from that team about a year later. And I would call that a dark time in my life, but I'd call it a dark time for a very short time. I can remember, crying with my father. My dad got the call, right? So we were so young that, it's not like upper levels of high school or college where the coach is talking to the player. I'm 11 years old. My dad gets the call and has to come and break the news that, Jimmy, unfortunately, you've been cut from the team. And I can remember the natural waves of emotions. One, being a victim. Two, going through the wave of emotion that I'm going to quit soccer. And three, I just remember a profound, quick discussion with my dad about how this was a unique opportunity for me to reaffirm my love for the game, get back to where I was playing more often, focus on fundamentals and train, which I was not doing up to that point. So I dropped down from a Division I team down to a Division III team, rebuilt my confidence, fell back in love with the game of soccer, and began the journey that I would call has defined this Terminator designation. I became driven from within. Frankly, it was my healthy obsession, soccer. I was not the coolest kid in school. I was one that would never partied in high school, frankly, because I was training at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning if I didn't have a game the following morning, and I didn't want anything to disrupt that. So I was the happy designated driver for kids in high school. But I began training every day. And fast forward, and someone challenged me to reflect on kind of the impact that getting cut from that team made. Fast forward, reflecting back out on it, on the Southwest Rangers, I was one of the few kids to play Division I soccer, and I was the only one that played professionally out of that group. So what went from a couple years of saying Marcello Aberzetti is the face on the dartboard for me. If I saw Marcello now and I had no idea where he is, I'd give him a huge hug and express immense gratitude for the impact that dropping me from the team has made in my life. So
there's a little Michael Jordan hint to that story, maybe a little bit younger, but the
first time I've ever been brought into a sentence with Michael Jordan there, Phil. This is a high honor for me. I think we sign off now, and thank you very much. It's been great talking to you guys, and I think I'll.
Yeah, we're just getting into it. You're not off that easy, buddy. We're not off that easy. So,
but yeah, you're right. You're right. 100% right. That was hugely inspiring to me, and something that I believe my dad alluded to.
Well, it's a cool story. I mean, it's the way you embrace failure at such a young age, and you obviously had alluded to earlier in sharing stories about your father and what a great man he was, and to have that mindset, shift in you and have that talk with you and be like, hey, let's look at this a little bit differently. And as Albert Einstein always says, in all difficulty lies opportunity. And you were in the abyss of like, is there a future for me here? And you took the opportunity, the other direction, to double down on it. And as you mentioned, reaffirm your love for the game. And here you are, you played college at a high level, played pros at a high level. So what was that like when you got to the professional level? What was that? That was got to be an amazing chapter of your life.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And that's even a story there. I was a regional All-American for Lehigh, and led the Patriot League in scoring, which I was recruited as a defender. But Stephen, not to digress back to 10, 11 years old, looking back on it, it was the first time I had to flex my resiliency muscles, right?
Yep.
And if you think about it, I don't know that youths these days are encouraged openly to flex their resiliency muscles. But even in college soccer, guys, I was brought in as a defender, a center back and a left back. And I'll never forget making a mistake against Delaware. Coach Koski's listening to this. He's going to laugh. I split the difference. I was a left back. The ball came down the right side. Keith Richings got beat. Keith, sorry if you're listening. But ball gets slotted near post. I should have taken the near post runner. But I stayed in between the near post and far post runner. Ball gets slotted near post, and we lose a game against a very trivial Delaware team as an 18th ranked team in the country at Lehigh. And I was at fault for it. There was no hiding. Welcome to the real deal where wins mean something.
Yeah. And
I'll never forget tape review the following day. And I think Coach played that tape back so many times, and had some incredible words of feedback openly with the other team. And I rode pine pretty much for the rest of the season. What do you do?
Yeah, good learning opportunity, right? I mean, you're in the middle of the game. We all make mistakes, and it's like, okay, well, we're going to win or learn, and that's a tough one though, because you're in the spotlight. You're D1 college, you're ranked nationally, and you're the guy, right, that made the wrong play, and that happens to everybody. And so resiliency is a good word to something you developed early on.
But started 6 games to start my career, and then rode pine pretty much the rest of my freshman year and my entire sophomore year. I mean, talk about lows of lows, but this was, again, another opportunity to flex my resiliency muscles. Am I just going to pack it in? Am I going to be satisfied with this, or am I going to try and do something a little bit different? So I always admire Coach Koski. He's got a very special place in my heart because I remember going in after my sophomore season and saying, hey, Coach, I want to play. And, it sounds like politicking and lobbying. But I genuinely wanted to understand where I had the best opportunity to earn my way onto the field. And what Coach said was telling. And I appreciated his direct, honest approach and feedback. What he basically said was, you lack speed in the back. We have a couple graduating guys on the offensive side of the ball. I'll allow you to play spring up top, but you're way down the depth chart. Like, unless there's a reason for me to put you on the field, you may not get many opportunities. So he laid it out exactly direct. And I can remember being in the gym, the little ballet room, because the intramural basketball games were going on while snow was falling on the ground at Lehigh, banging balls off the wall, getting touches in. And I came out that spring refreshed and ready to rock and roll. I started on the bench my junior year, and I believe it was the 3rd game of the season. We were running first team, second team, and I was in the first team, so I was going to start. I called my mother and said, Mom, I'd like you to come up to the game. I think I'm going to start. And I scored 2 goals, and the rest is history. I just took off. So it was a mindset shift. Defending, I was offended if someone got a shot, or, you just had to have that mindset. Offensively, look, I wasn't the fastest. I was very technical, but for me, it was this obsession, this Terminator mindset that my job was exclusively to score goals. And there were a lot of times that I went, man, I'm just not the best player on the field, but there was just a mentality that until I scored a goal, my job was not done. And it certainly served me well over the next 2 years. So that was college. And then had a couple MLS trials, but was told very directly, hey, you're not good enough to play at this level. So I played for the Harrisburg City Islanders in USL 2, which is essentially Division 3. And to make that jump, you basically go and you're playing with other pros. I mean, it's the best of the best. So you've got to be bringing something else to the table. But, so I didn't play much for Harrisburg. I'll never forget, though, invite my dad up for Father's Day. We had a game, I believe, against Pittsburgh Riverhounds at home. And I had a feeling that I was going to get on. And I did, and I scored. And in the pros, different from college, it's so funny rehashing these details. But in the pros, different than in college, if you leave the field in college, you get carded. In the pros, you're a pro. I ran, I'll never forget, I ran to my dad and celebrated with my dad in the stands, and the entire team came in and piled on and had an opportunity to say, Happy Father's Day. And that was pretty cool. Yeah.
This is such a great way to frame up your transition to the business world, because this is where it's built, right? These are the things that chisel away and give you the makeup for the challenges that await. So after college, can you talk us through that kind of transition, how you found the industry that you're currently still in today, and what that looked like from the very early stages of your sales and business career?
Sure. So I was on the trucks in college. My freshman year, I did not like lifting weights, but making $11 an hour at a moving company sounded pretty darn good. Lifting furniture to stay out of the gym. I would run like the wind, but really didn't enjoy lifting weights, which is ironic because M3 is muscular.
Yeah, I
movement,
wouldn't have guessed that. I thought that was how you were all the time. Yeah.
Now I really do enjoy getting after it in the gym, and I really wonder what playing would have been like if I took hitting the weights really seriously.
Yeah, an extra 25 pounds of muscle or something, right?
That's right. That's right. But for me, it was just a job, right? And then, I think just through hard work, dedication, and being professional, right? I mean, it is as simple as that. Unfortunately, the moving industry is an industry built and driven by individuals that otherwise have not been able to find gainful employment elsewhere. So you're either getting young kids like I was that are doing it part-time, working through college, or post-college, you're getting individuals that, haven't had success finding a job elsewhere. So they get into manual labor, lifting furniture all day. But for me, I found it easy showing up on time, being professional, providing good customer service to stand out. And I found out very quickly that I could impact my income by getting tips. And I could also impact lighter days on my body because, the warehouse team would turn and say, "Hey, I'd like Jim's help in the warehouse today," or "I'd like to build crates." I almost, over that summer, I became like a utility man for the company. So the can-do attitude in me was just, I'm all in. Just let me know where I can go. So I think back, I was, obviously a mover. I worked my way up through project management. I went out and directed trucks in and around the parking lot with a vest on. I helped build crates in the warehouse. I helped drive the forklift and put residential vaults away. I helped with long distance shipments.
Super versatile, man. You were the jack of all trades, and then you got recruited. This is all going on back east, right? This wasn't even here in Phoenix, and you were obviously known in the industry as like a top dog and an A player, and that's when Muscular Moving Men, they recruited you back then, 4 or 5 years ago.
When did the sales bug hit? When did we make this transition to that?
Yeah, Rob,
three sales guys on the horn here.
Yeah, I've got to give a lot of credit to a woman by the name of Robin Walden. Because I was versatile out on the trucks, before leaving, I had a conversation with the owner of the company to turn and say, "Look, I'd love an internship over the winter." Typically, that's a quiet time for movers, but he turned, and his name was John Licata, and John said, "Look, talk to Robin Walden." And Robin said, "Look, I'd love for you to come back and work as an HR intern over the winter." So for the same $11 an hour, I came back and I was an HR intern helping recruit. That summer, I continued the internship with Robin. I ended up doing terminations at 19 years old, recruiting people. I worked part-time with the operations team, assisting with dispatch. So I learned a multitude of jobs within the company while building my resume. And then the following summer, I worked for University Painters. And that's a story in itself, a separate one. But post-college, my agreement with my dad is that he would continue to support me as long as I was progressing in my soccer career. So it was a progression to get to USL2. Well, I was not good enough to continue to progress. And a few trials fell through, and I remember the hard conversation with him where he said, "All right, it's time to get the resume out there." So I'm pumping the resume out for sales positions, and Robin Walden got wind of it and called me. And she said, "Jim, you'd be great in the industry." And my response to that was, "Robin, I'm sorry, I'm not interested." And her feedback was profound and changed the trajectory of my career. What she said was this: Jim, most people join a moving company in sales, and it takes them 18 months to 24 months to learn the trade. You already know it. You're going to hit the ground already flying on the treadmill. Why don't you come in for an interview and just see how you like it? Sure enough, I did. They extended an offer. It was not as good of an offer as I had received elsewhere, but I felt like I had a base of experience, and she was 100% correct. I joined back in the industry, and when I would step into a house or I would step into an office, I already had that wealth of knowledge and practical experience, as opposed to walking in there for the first time, which also led to credibility. Right? If value is the benefit less the cost, the value proposition that I was offering was, even though I am a 21-year-old kid, I've been here before, and here's how I would approach your project, and here's how I would minimize your risk. So,
yeah, and at the time you didn't realize it, but that was all preparation for this opportunity, right? And like as soon as it was offered, it's like, yeah, let's go. I've got the confidence. I've prepared myself. I've been doing this. You're right. I am going to be able to hit the ground running. And you do a lot of, now that has translated into not just your career for one organization, but just consulting and speaking and helping being a resource within the industry in its entirety. And there is a cool story. I think it was just earlier this year or last year. Is it OMA? Is that the association you're a part of? OMA? So
sure
I
yes.
remember the acronym, something moving alliance. What's the O stand for?
Office Moving Alliance. Yeah.
Okay. Office Moving Alliance, which you're a big part of, but you got an opportunity to fly out to Ireland, which is where Phil got married in 2019. And you went to the same damn pub that we all partied at and sent us a video of it, which I don't remember the name of the pub. Yeah. I don't remember the name of the pub. What was it called, Phil?
The Abbey Tavern.
The Abbey Tavern. But you got such an amazing experience out of this, all this preparation and all this work that you've done in your career to get out to Ireland, speak to a bunch of movers, and visit a place that Phil knows well and visits multiple times a year. And it's so cool that some of these pivotal moments that you share and you have in these conversations, how they change the trajectory of your life. And then you align with people that have similar stories. It's just so weird to look back and connect the dots. But talk to that a little bit, and how you do become you have become a resource in the industry for other movers and through that alliance.
Yeah, good question. First of all, yeah, OMA is skyrocketing. It is the best industry organization, I believe, that exists for office moving, and it's bringing together the most talented individuals that have impacted the industry and the most talented organizations that are forward thinking and progressive. There's a really, really good marriage, and then the European Alliance is continuing to grow. The reality of it is that organization really aligns with everything that I'm about in the industry, and so many other solid impactors in the industry as well. But for me, Stephen, I think I've evolved in my career where I think it's natural, especially in a sales capacity, to be very, very selfish early on in your career. Very, very selfish. For me, one of the Terminator designations is I've never missed a sales target. And I'm proud of that. And I haven't thought about that until recently. I was asked by somebody that prompted me to think about it. But if I get a target, I pursue the target with everything that I have. I basically terminate the target. And until it's done and terminated, there's massive increased focus. And that's how I built my success in my journey. But what I've also realized is that I think the legacy that I hope to have, that I hope to earn someday, is defined by assisting others. And so for me, it's a great honor to go and work with other teams and collaborate with other teams to frankly try and provide value, right? So I'm doing that very intentionally and having a lot of fun doing it. It's like,
it looks like it, yeah.
it's soul reviving. It's like it lights up my soul.
It's a creative
right?
outlet, right? It's when you give back
exactly
to
right.
others and you're able to be a resource for other people, whether in your industry
Yep.
or not, it's a creative outlet from the day-to-day business partnerships you have, career, whatever it is you're doing. But you've got that extra layer of like, who am I and what can I give to this world? And you're able to do
That's
that
right.
through OMA and various other things, and that's awesome.
That's what's been so cool about Junto, and big nod to you, Jim, on giving me the nudge to, hey, think you should present, even though it's your first year with the group. I think you were very directive in giving me the nudge to put something together, which is a big reason why Steven and I, after those 2 presentations, have built this podcast. And so that natural byproduct of sharing what you have been so instrumental, being the designer for the first 2 years, really, on putting that creative outlet into the group via Summit. So big shout out to you there, because it's significant.
Well, thanks, guys. I mean, look, you're talented individuals. What you guys are doing with the OppoFlow podcast, and Stephen, what you're doing with OppoFlow, and Phil, with what you're doing with your intentional mindset work is I've always said, and hopefully other people have said it before me, but you guys are going to be up in front of hundreds, thousands of people talking about your experience and impact in their lives in the future. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not telling that to people that I come across. You're a rare breed. But I think Junto has inspired a collaboration and ignited the creative outlet for each one of the hard driving, successful entrepreneurs that are in the room. And then as a further added benefit, the vacuum that has been created has allowed for vulnerability, which you otherwise really don't get with tough, macho, highly successful, highly driven entrepreneurs. So, man, I keep saying this, but Junto just continues to get better and better.
It's a special group. It's definitely been a mindset shift for me in the last 4 years since I've been a part of it. But I mean, I'm hanging out with Mount Rushmore. You guys both have been lead designers, have gotten the apron every year, and it's really cool to be in a room with you guys every single month. And obviously with Phil and I doing this podcast, but Jim, you're an inspiration and definitely someone that we all look up to, and honored to be in the room with you as well. What's cool about Junto, and a lot of just talking about legacy and the things that we're trying to build and creative outlets and all that stuff. You've got a family, you've got a beautiful wife, Chantel, and you've got some kids, and a lot of guys in the room talk about legacy, and you don't have to be a one-trick pony, and what are the things that we can build and create for generations to come. So talk about that a little bit, and how bringing family into the fold of all the things that you're trying to do and the impact you're trying to make, and being at home and on the personal level. You struck a chord with me when you're telling me the story, how you're like, I'm not trying to lobby for myself talking to my coach, but I want to share my goals. And I had a similar situation with my 12-year-old son. He's on a club baseball team, pretty competitive, and he's one of the better players, but he was batting like 6, 7, and he was normally, like last year, he was batting top 2, 3, and we got some new players onto the team. He was also, being out in left or right field when last year he was playing third base, but he's a really good outfielder. And so they just needed him out there. And so he was getting a little frustrated to start the season. And so we had him write down his goals and share that with his coaches at 11, 12 years old. Say, hey, coach, I want to be a top 5 batter. I want to play third base more. It's my favorite position. I understand I'm a good outfielder, but I do want to bring joy back into the game for me. And, can we get some opportunities? What do I need to work on? And shared all of that, and things, it was clear for him, right? And so he got that clarity from the coaches. And not a lot of kids have the ability, or even adults for that matter, speaking to their bosses or leaders or whatever and saying, these are the goals and things that I want. How do I get there? And so, just talking about that, sharing that story about my son, I know you've got a lot of experiences with your kids and youth sports and whatnot. So share some of that a little bit. You got any nuggets that you can give some words of wisdom for us?
Sure. I mean, look, first and foremost, I and I've shared this with you guys. My mission right now is to be a lot more intentional with my wife and a lot more intentional with my kids. Part of the Achilles heel of taking on targets with everything you've got is that I think what I've done a poor job in the past is having something left in the tank for Chantel and the children. And they are outside of my faith. They are most important to me. But we walk a fine line as entrepreneurs, kind of stuck in a vice, right? Where the business cranks on one end and the family cranks on the other. And it's hard. You got to put your oxygen mask on first, as I like to so often say it. But, that's an awesome story about your son. And I know he's a stud athlete, but, if you don't know where you're going or you have an idea of where you're headed, right, you get a GPS out to help you with the directions to get there. What I find fascinating, in fact, we had our all hands crew meeting this morning, and I asked the question, how many of you write goals down? And you'd be shocked, or perhaps not shocked, that really no hands went up. And it's a sad reality in society today. It's a sad reality that if the majority of the 85 team members that I had in that room this morning don't put their hands up, how are they inspiring and conveying the next generation, their children? And we had quite a few fathers and mothers in the room this morning at our all hands crew meeting. It doesn't take a lot to dream and write things down, but I find, and I've reflected on this, I would bet that subliminally deep down inside, the reason why people don't want to write down goals or targets is because they don't want to fail themselves of falling short of those goals or targets. But what we've talked about intentionally on this podcast thus far is how, in my particular case, how failure has absolutely shaped the success that I've been able to find. So I wish people would understand, especially as they're passing along wisdom to the next generation, that you're playing with house money. The win or learn mentality, as you alluded to before, Stephen, is perfectly put. If you succeed in the goal, that's wonderful. You make bigger goals. But if you do not succeed in the goal, you just learn from it and you make other goals. I think we need to shift our mindset from a pass fail mentality to a pass learn mentality. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was it caught my eye right before we kicked off the podcast. I haven't looked at this in years, but this is something that's up in my office. I literally pass by it every single day. I wrote values, short range goals, medium range goals, long range goals. Guys, this is printed on like one of the Atari printers from back. I might have done this in like second grade. In fact, I bet you my dad or my mother wrote this down as I did it. But I didn't frame it; they framed it. So perhaps one of those gifts that's pertinent to the discussion. I wrote this down again, maybe second grade. My values: family, life, education, faith, friends, my teachers in life. Short range goals: get good grades. Well, that's pretty complex. Get good grades. Have fun. Get a job. Play soccer. Get my permit. So I probably was 13 or 14 years old, guys. Have trust. Medium range goals. Good grades. 3.7 GPA. Get a 1350 on the SATs. Get a car. Help others. Graduate high school. Long range goals. Get in a good college. Graduate college. Become a doctor.
Nice.
Get married. Have a nice job. Have kids.
The one that sticks out of me there, Jim, that shows how forward thinking you are and a little beyond yours, have trust. I don't think there's many 13-year-olds that are contemplating or have the awareness that that's something that they need more of as they're maturing. That's an interesting one, man.
First time I've read that list, I'm half cracking up as I'm reading it because I haven't read it in years. It's been in the subliminal background. I know it's there. But how many of us are sitting down with our kids? And in fact, you've inspired me. I think my intention this week is to bring this home and sit down with my three oldest. Grace is 11, Graham is 9, and Gavin is 6, and put their thoughts down and perhaps frame it for them as a gentle reminder that some of these are laughable. Become a doctor. Well, I'm not a doctor, right? But I still had a long range goal. And then perhaps the most profound and the most important to me is get married and have kids, accomplish those goals. And frankly, my dreams have come true being able to raise children. But you bring up a good point from a trust perspective, and I'll kick it up a notch, have faith too. Faith is a belief in the unseen. And unfortunately, I think certainly as men, talking about faith is something that I don't want to use the term is frowned upon, but it's perhaps an area of weakness. And I understand why it can be negatively perceived, because it's a dangerous topic, much like politics. But I would ask you this question, and I would challenge anybody else that's listening to this. What happens in your life if your worst fears come to fruition? Mine have to do with my kids. I can't continue talking about it because I'll break down if I think about my worst fears coming to fruition. It's unfortunate that so many strong individuals turn to faith when something has struck a chord so deeply in their lives, yet they don't turn to faith when things are happening in line with expectations. The example is like someone coming to you, gentlemen, and saying, Stephen, unfortunately, if you don't get in the weight room, not good things are going to happen in the next 6 months. So what do? Your why is bigger than your why not. You hit the weights with everything you got.
Sure.
But had you just been pumping some weights over the last 20 years, just even lightly, you might not be having that conversation.
Yeah, Jim, I couldn't agree more with that. It's back to the other metaphor of building the well before you're thirsty. And that is a relationship that even if it's not the strongest, whatever your faith might be, that consistent action to build a connection. So when the time does come, the relationship's already there. You've already built that well, and it's more of I can lean into this with the faith in the higher power, not trying to build that relationship in this state of chaos and despair. So I love that. I love that tie.
That's right. And you know what? For me, I believe in God, and I believe that the greatest leader in the history of mankind is Jesus Christ. And I believe that it's all level at the foot of the cross, meaning that it doesn't matter where you've been, where it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Jesus is the only perfect individual that's ever walked this earth, and no one can compare to him. So there is no ranking system. There is none. Mm-hmm. We all have fallen short of his glory, but he's perfect in that he wants to have a relationship with you. And for me, that's been a profound part of my business success too. I work out in the mornings. It started as a workout in the mornings. Now it's 1 spiritual, 2 mental, 3 physical. Never started that way. Talk about the opportunity in that. I want to work out. I want to better myself. Then I decided to say, you know what? I'm going to listen to the Bible. I'm almost done with the second listening of the Bible, but I do that while I'm working out. So it's funny. I'm slamming weights in the weight room, and people think that I must be like jamming out to Jay-Z or
hard rock
some music. No, I'm listening to the Bible. But that works for me, right?
Yeah. You get a real pump.
I'm not going to preach, but it's worked for me, and it's been fascinating being open to working on what I'm going to call a muscle, and that is my faith. And what I found is that the more that I work on that muscle, it's the one muscle that I want to continue to intentionally work on and continue to refine and continue to do better. But what is rubbed off, Grace had one of the toughest years last year with bullying. I think I may have shared that with you guys. Talk about flexing a resiliency muscle. That was a daily conversation with Grace. This mind shift of you've had a unique opportunity at 10 years old to flex this resiliency muscle, but to witness her pray for girls that are treating her terribly. I mean, what, are you kidding me? As a father, that's inspiring in itself at 10 years old. And she's thriving in her new environment. We shifted schools for her, and it's a much better fit for her. So, have trust. What are we trusting, especially as highly successful individuals? What are we trusting? And I would say this: it's okay if you're trusting that alcohol is going to get you through. It's okay, but that's probably not the best outlet, right? So nobody's going to judge you, right? The big man upstairs certainly is not going to judge you, but that's probably not the most healthy outlet for you, yourself, and you 20, 30 years down the road when you want to have a legacy and look back on it. So you probably need to address that, right?
Yeah.
What relationships are you trusting in that are not fruitful, that are not investing in you as much as you're investing in them? It's okay to turn to those relationships and put boundaries in place. And take a leap of faith to say, you know what, they're not best serving the direction that I'm heading in right now. And it's okay to turn to others and offer words of encouragement. I'll never forget Dan Clark talking about how 80% of people that smile are hiding behind something that deeply triggers them. There's a lot of sadness behind 80% of people that smile, right?
Yeah, everyone's got a story, and it's a good reminder, especially as we head into the holidays too. People are at an all-time high in stress, and things are kind of a little bit more chaotic. You got a lot more family around, and just having patience and gratitude and realizing that everyone's going through something. That you're not alone. Right. You're going through something, but so is the next guy and the next gal, and just having realizing that as you go into your daily interactions. But I think there's a couple things that you mentioned throughout the last few minutes was, obviously your faith and how you come together with your family on that and having that as a centerpiece. And, that brings your relationships closer with your kids and your wife. And, but also talking about your goals that you went through when you were 13 years old. Like none of those said, I want to be rich. I want to have a big house. I want to have a big car. It was all stuff that that's success right there in my eyes. Like I wanted a family. I wanted good grades. Those are things you could work on, and the outcomes came to fruition. And so no matter what happens, even if you have no money at all, or you don't have the biggest house, you don't have the car, or whatever perception of success is for most people, you're successful because of the things that you outlined. And it's just not the type of person you are is the materialistic things. And that goes back to faith. You're putting that trust into, things that you care about. So we always end the podcast on a question, and this is, it can be a challenging one. I think you've given your answer throughout the podcast, but we now want to hear it in one concise, clear statement from the Terminator. What does success mean for Jim Stevens?
Success for me is someday at my funeral, it being the room being filled with people that I've helped.
Incredible.
If there are tears, that the tears are surrounded by the fact that we don't have, any more interactions on this earth, right? But that there's much more joy in the room than anything else. That's success for me.
That's a great answer. There's a guy named Sean Johnson. I think he's out in Illinois. But he brought up, I want to build funeral-worthy relationships. I don't want to have 5,000 people at my funeral. I want to have 200 of the most quality relationships possible, and that's my legacy. Right. That's what I want, and that's a great answer. It aligns, kind of eye-opening. How do you build those? How do you audit those relationships to make sure they're funeral-worthy? Jim, this has been a lot of fun, man. I know we could talk, and we got a lot of cool stories, and we'll have you on again. But I appreciate you hopping on. If someone wants to connect with you and chit chat, and maybe in the moving industry, if there's any movers that are listening, what's the best way to get in touch?
LinkedIn's the best way to get in touch with me. I look at my LinkedIn profile pretty frequently. Drop me a DM, but guys, you have honored me. I love what you guys are doing with the SuccessFlow podcast. You are two absolute studs that bring immense value to anyone that you come across. And I'm proud of what you guys have done. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys continue to take this.
Thanks for being you, and the feeling is mutual, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jim.